CBS News has new information about what led investigators to focus on 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger, the suspect charged in the brutal murders of 4 college students. CBS's Omar Villafranca is in Moscow, Idaho, with new details tonight.
Tonight, investigators were seen removing mattresses from the crime scene, loading 2 of them onto the back of pickup trucks. This, as newly released documents show, police were hot on the trail of the suspect, thanks to a digital web investigator say entangled Bryan Kohberger.
Everybody's driving around with a GPS tracker.
Mark Rosh is a former DOJ cybersecurity expert and says every day people leave a trail of digital debris.
People don't realize that when they're using any kind of a device, that they're leaving a track of what they're doing. And even if they're just driving in a car, there are automated license plate readers that are capturing their license plate.
Investigators say they were able to ID Kohberger as the owner of a white Hyundai Elantra that was seen speeding from the crime scene, which then led to his cell phone number. In the affidavit, police say they tracked the criminal justice PhD student through his cell phone, and it pinged off towers near the crime scene at least 12 times before the attack. Police also say they think the suspect could have turned his phone off the morning of the murders, noting that Kohberger's device didn't ping cell towers between 2:47 a.m. and 4:48 a.m., saying that is consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple homicide.
It's much more difficult to get away with these kinds of crimes in 2023 than it was 20, 30 years ago.
Disturbing new details are now coming out about the man accused of killing 4 college students in Idaho. Investigators say his DNA was found on a knife case at the crime scene.
Yeah, phone data also shows that he had visited that area around the victim's home several times before the murders. Fox 35's Matt Napolitano has that story tonight.
Bryan Kohberger in an Idaho court Thursday to face first-degree murder charges in the November slayings of 4 college students. It's Kohberger's first court appearance since being extradited from Pennsylvania, where he was taken into custody last week while visiting family.
Count 2 alleges that you committed the felony offense of murder in the first degree.
According to a newly unsealed affidavit, Kohberger's arrest came after investigators used DNA evidence to link him to a knife sheath left behind at the scene of the murders. Cell phone records also indicate Kohberger visited the area near the home at least a dozen times prior to that night. His phone, however, was not traced there that evening. Documents also reveal police have video evidence showing a white sedan believed to be driven by Kohberger circling the house before the murders and then fleeing from the scene at a high speed around 4:30 a.m. One of the most alarming pieces of evidence, testimony from another roommate in the house who alleges they saw a tall man wearing all black and a mask on the night of the murders. The man apparently walked right by the roommate as they stood frozen in shock. In Moscow, Kohberger's arrest is welcome news, as many say it's the first step towards closure.
I hope justice will be served. Nothing will ever bring those kids back, but I hope justice will be served.
Kohberger will remain in custody without bail, and he's been ordered not to contact surviving victims or their families. His next court day is set for next week.
Police say Bryan Kohberger is the one who went into the student's house just after 4 a.m. and stabbed 4 students to death in 2 different bedrooms. We just learned from the affidavit one of the surviving victims was not asleep downstairs as police originally indicated, but she heard voices, heard crying, and even saw the mass killer when she opened her second-floor bedroom door. Retired FBI agent John McVeigh tells me that police didn't reveal all of this or that she was a witness because they were obviously protecting her until they made an arrest. But we still don't know why she locked her door and apparently didn't alert anyone to call 911 until almost noon the next day. McVeigh says everyone reacts differently, and we don't know what her state of mind may have been even after seeing that strange masked man. McVeigh says she may have thought she was seeing a domestic dispute with one of her roommate's unknown dates.
Revelations are still coming out of the affidavit in the University of Idaho stabbings. Now we are learning through evidence that the accused killer returned to the scene of the crime.
Fox 13's Matthew Smith joins us now with those fresh new details. Matt?
So this affidavit, only unredacted document that we've gotten so far from the judge in this case. The only thing that's public, really. Its 18 pages are full of unsettling new details, and among the most jarring, the fact that police believe Bryan Kohberger, the suspect, returned to the house hours after the murders took place. Now, investigators pieced that information together by tracking Kohberger's cell phone data. They were able to map his movements over several months by pinging which towers his cell phone was connecting with. Now, overnight on November 13th, when Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonsalves were killed, data shows that Kohberger's phone was leaving his apartment in Pullman around 2:50 in the morning. But almost immediately, the phone cuts off from cell phone service. Investigators think that was a deliberate move by him to not be caught. But security cameras pick up a white Hyundai Elantra, just like his, driving up to the victim's home around 4 a.m. The cell phone reconnects to service around 4:50 that morning. At that point, it's traveling just south of Moscow when it returns to Kohberger's apartment. Now, fast forward to 9 a.m., the phone's in motion once again, but this time it stays on for the entire trip, and cell phone data positions it near the scene of the crime for a short while later. At 9:12, police believe Kohberger was lingering in that area for at least 10 minutes. The affidavit doesn't say what exactly he would have been doing, but he likely wouldn't have been disturbed. And we know that because it would be several more hours before police arrived at the home. Now, retired Seattle police homicide detective Cloyd Steger says that this move fits with the profile of somebody who thinks they're simply too smart to get caught.
He is a narcissist, and he is, I don't know enough to know about him if he's a sociopath or a psychopath. But, yeah, the boy ain't right.
Now, one of the other things that stands out, Kohberger just went about his life. In fact, we know he was at an Albertsons grocery store near Clarkston, Washington, around 12:45 in the afternoon that day. Security cameras don't pick up any obvious injuries or peculiar behavior. He just continued about his business, shopping, paying for items, and taking off. It's also worth noting that Kohberger says he believes he will be exonerated in the end of all this. He's due back in court January 12th. Hannah?